Welcome to the first webcast of Results Simplified. My name is Amy McKee, and I'm sitting with Brian O'Neill, Director of Operational Excellence from the Venetian Palazzo Sands. Brian, welcome.
Thank you.
So, part of the reason I asked you here is because I know you've spent a lot of time and hard effort working on developing the Leadership Promise. Can you tell us a little bit about the Leadership Promise?
Sure. The Leadership Promise was developed over the last several years as an aspirational way of looking at where we want to be as leaders throughout the organization. Mm-hmm. And what's nice about the Leadership Promise is it's the first one I've ever seen where everything is written in point of view of, if we do things, what do team members say about us? Mm-hmm. What are the results of our actions? So it's an aspirational way of looking at 6 principles of leadership behavior, mm-hmm. but from the point of view of team members. In other words, team members, if we follow our Leadership Promise, team members will say about their leaders that they inspire me, mm-hmm. that their leaders get it done, that leaders do the right thing, that their leaders believe in the team members, and that their leaders invest in growth, and that their leaders have a passion to serve all. That's, to me, one of the biggest differences between this particular model of leadership and previous models. But for the first time, this actually puts it in terms of really thinking about it's the impact we as leaders have on our team members, on our associates, our employees that makes this so special.
Those principles, you know, as you mentioned, they're more in terms of what makes this different. It's more in terms of what can employees expect from their leaders. So
right.
how is leadership viewed from an employee perspective? Some of these can be pretty intimidating. How do you sell that to them as hey, this isn't something that's going to be used against you, but this is something to actually help you?
Right. Well, especially when every one of these principles are listed in only a few words here on this nice, pretty poster. And if this was the extent of the Leadership Promise, if we simply said, yes, we're going to put this poster up everywhere and everybody's going to buy into it, it could be hugely intimidating to a lot of leaders and not particularly definitive for team members to really understand this either. Yeah. So what we had to construct was what I call a layered approach to how we built out the way that this would roll into the organization. Mm-hmm. So the first layer behind this is 3 key behavior statements for each one of these principles. For instance, they inspire me as key behavior statements about having a good vision, and that vision may be for the organization, it may be for your own team as a leader. Where is it you want to go? Have you talked about that? Have you communicated that well? And so we create those kinds of behavior statements to help people understand what it is that it means to say they inspire me. Yeah. You know, what specifically can you do? Yeah. And below that then is our Maestro program, which is a series of live experiences. So very specifically action-oriented plans on how an individual leader can do in their own team or their own department the behaviors that will help them to move towards each of these individual principles.
Based on how you described that as being a tool that companies that want to avoid an organized workforce could actually help make sure that they've got a good relationship with their workforce.
I mean, one of the philosophies that many companies have is that if a company creates such a great environment that their team members and workforce are truly engaged and truly understanding and trusting of what's going on, and if they understand what the future looks like, if they know what the score is and they understand how they can score, how they can win, if they feel that they're being listened to and coached in a way that's not necessarily punishment or being a referee, but coached in a way that feels like a continuous conversation, if they feel that there are avenues for growth and promotion and moving up in the organization, and if they feel their leaderships are passionate about what they do, then there won't be a need to have a third party come in and help negotiate things. So that's one way to look at the philosophy of setting up something like this kind of Leadership Promise in your organization.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about results. So you mentioned it and they get it done. I think we've also mentioned previously about there's a challenge. A lot of companies focus so much on results that they disregard the other pieces that's important for an organization to work well. How does the Leadership Promise itself as a holistic curriculum, how does that impacts results?
The results piece is important because you do have to move things. The ultimate purpose for any business is to make money, and so, you know, how do you ensure the viability of the business long term? One way to do it is to make sure that you have the right dashboard, scorecards, and pieces in place so that people really understand what is it that makes success in our organizations, and ensuring that even team members understand it means that they understand their leaders are truly getting it done. So the other ways to show data, for instance, team member satisfaction surveys can be conducted to find out, are your team members really feeling that you are espousing these other pieces of the leadership promise. So when you look at how we've come in the journey so far, a large amount of our people are now through a really strong sense of the principle of they do the right thing. It's related to a certain amount of trust questions that we ask on our team member satisfaction survey. And now that we have almost all of our leaders through that important principle of they do the right thing, we already had a pretty high score on that trust index, but we've gone up 3.5 points from one survey to the most current survey in those index questions, which to us is a way to show, from a measurement point of view, that focus on this particular principle has created behaviors that has changed the perception of team members about whether or not they truly trust their leaders.
Why do you think it's so important?
Well, to me, it's what enlightened businesses in the 21st century have to do in order to succeed long term. They have to put a stake in the ground and say, what do we as leaders really want to stand for? And how do we want to manifest that in ways that our team members, our employees, our associates will see it and know that we're working towards this.
Yeah, I want to thank you so much for joining us today and walking us through the Leadership Promise. Again, this is Amy McKee with Results Simplified. Have a great day.